Hello again, welcome to one of my favourite hours of the week, and this week with one of my favourite people in football, no less than the only man who's ever managed both the Owls and the Blades. Yes, history in the making, was in the making, and it's great to look back over it with Danny Wilson this evening. Good evening, Danny.
Good evening, Alan.
I've counted and I'm beginning to lose count. You played for 8 clubs.
I think so, yes.
You managed 8 clubs.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
You had 24 caps for Northern Ireland.
Correct.
This is the depth of the research you see here. And you won the League Cup twice.
Yes, fortunately, yes. It's been quite exciting times, one way or the other.
Luton
yes.
Town and Sheffield Wednesday. Luton is the one that you might not remember. But, of course, historically, manager of both Sheffield football clubs, currently manager of Chesterfield. So we'll start there. I say currently, that's not to give you any sense of insecurity, but you can never be that secure as a manager anywhere, can you?
Well, you can't. We've just seen, recently, the last week or so, with Sean O'Driscoll leaving Walsall, and I think that shocked everybody, really, because I think, they've still got a fantastic chance of making the top 2. Automatically promoted, and they still got an even better chance of the top 6, and for somebody to lose their job in those circumstances was quite a surprise. But we say that we're never surprised what happens in football, but you do get you do get a little bit of a shock now and again.
You play Walsall on Saturday. Actually, coincidentally, you're at home to Walsall with a caretaker manager in charge. I think at the minute.
Yeah, it's John Whitney who's the physio, but I think he'll be helped along quite a lot with John Ward. John Ward's been around, as you well know. He's still at the club, and he'll be helping out. I'm sure he'll have a major input into that.
Yeah, it's almost as if, and probably you can't comment on a specific case, but just a general comment that I made on Twitter was it was almost as if Walsall had forgotten what had put them in such a good position anyway, with predecessor Dean Smith having managed for some years there, and they'd seen the fruits of continuity, and suddenly a short time and Sean O'Driscoll goes. But it's often the guy who follows the manager that's been there a long time, isn't it?
Well, it is, and I think with Dean, you're always going to get people looking at managers who've done so well, and particularly with a young age as Dean as well. But when your resources are limited, like they were and still are at Walsall, and to be in the heady heights of the division like they are, then people are going to look and be interested, and they obviously fitted the bill that Brentford wanted. But again, when that little bit of momentum you think may stop, it goes on. Burton have proved that, with Nigel Clough, that although somebody's left in Jimmy Floyd Hasselbank, they can still continue the good work, and really there's not a lot wants fixing, and I think that's the same sort of tact I would presume that John Whitney will take at the weekend. They're in the position on merit. They're not up there by fluke. All season. They've not stayed there for just by being lucky. They've got some very good players at their disposal. But sometimes you don't want to change it too much. To continue the good work they've already done.
Nigel Clough, you mentioned one of your successors at Sheffield United. Yeah. We'll talk a little bit about that and the times you've had at both Sheffield clubs as a player too. But first of all, Chesterfield, I think 12 games you've had since you took over there, league games that is, 5 victories. You're unbeaten in 5 currently as well. So you must be pretty delighted with that.
I wouldn't say delighted. We're still in a real dogfight at the bottom there. I think there's too many teams in and around us, really. So, to take our foot off the gas, we can quite easily fall back into it. And I mean, the bottom 4, that is, in a number of weeks. So, but we've given ourselves a chance. We've had some good performances, strong performances in the last, 4 to 5, 6 games. But over the period since I've been here, I've been fairly pleased with the lads anyway. The sad thing is we've missed 1 or 2 key players. And a club, with our resources and the size of the squad we have, we really can't afford that. But the lads have responded really well. We brought a couple of loan players in, a couple of permanent players in, which have fitted in really well with us. So with a bit of luck, if we get a good result at the weekend, it can ease the pressure somewhat.
I think the gap's 5 or 6 points now. So it's not really a measure of comfort with 3 points for a win, is it really? No. But it's better than it was. That was the point I was making.
Well, I think we're giving ourselves a bit of hope, and the fans in particular have given a bit of hope, that you know, we came in off the back of, I think, 7 defeats or something like that when I came in. So, you know, the confidence was pretty low, as you can imagine, and you know the fans had given up hope in lots of respects. But we know this league very well, and we know it can change around pretty quickly. You know, if you can, you know, this is not the Premier League, and with all due respect, you know, it can change pretty quickly on a regular basis, top to bottom. And we've seen in the last month now the form table's been turned upside down. I mean, the bottom teams have started winning games. The top teams are getting a bit nervy and losing a few games. So you know the way the league changes from game to game is astonishing, really.
It is really incredible, even for somebody who's been around to the extent that you have. A member of the 1,000 game club, by the way. I remember when you came to Sheffield United, in an interview I did with you, you said that you were targeting that.
Yeah.
And sure enough, you achieved it. I think in your later time there at Bramall
It was
Lane,
actually at Barnsley.
At Barnsley.
At Barnsley where I got the 1,000, yes. Yeah, it was, yeah. It was, which I think, you know, it made me feel very proud, I have to say, particularly in the industry that we, you know, work in. You know, it's as you know yourself, it can be very tough at times, you know, to work for a year, never mind longer than that. But I've been very, very privileged, and I've been very honoured to manage a lot of the clubs, and particularly in this area, as you well know. And again, you know, I think you've got to retain that hunger and that appetite, you know, to continue. And I think that's what's kept me going, really, more than anything. You know, I've always had that desire and that ambition. But again, you know, you've got to say thank you to the people that employ you. You know, that's the major area in which you are going to be thought well of.
Okay, if the research is correct, you're now on 1,024 games.
Right.
I don't know whether that's you making me feel old or me making you feel old, because I remember a lot of them.
Yeah,
going way back, and indeed your career as a player, coming to Chesterfield from Bury for about £100,000, which was a huge fee in those days. It really, really was.
It was, Alan, yeah, and you know, to go to Chesterfield at that time, you know, that showed the ambition that Chesterfield had. You know, the old Saltergate there, you know, and the ex-manager there was obviously a well-known Arthur Cox, and he put a team together that was fairly expensive, you know, at the time, and particularly for Chesterfield standards, and certainly finances. But you know, it was a very good team at the time. But we didn't manage to get into the next division, which was the most sad thing about it.
I don't know how that didn't happen, because it was a great team. Alan Burst, Rod Fern, people like that, and Phil Bonnyman was there. And, you know, what a good team, and probably the best team I've seen at Chesterfield. You know, it's
they had some good players, that was for sure. And you know, I think, you know, we ended up winning the Anglo-Scottish Cup, beating Rangers at that time as well, which was a massive bonus for the club, you know, and very prestigious at that time. But you know, it's like everything, you know, players, you know, if it not successful, you get nicked and somebody goes somewhere else, and somebody's got the eye on one or two of the better players, and the Alan Birch of this world goes to Wolverhampton Wanderers, etc. And so the team slowly broke up. But at the times that we had, they were fantastic.
Indeed. You've had some great times all over the place, maybe some controversial times. You can't have been a manager for as long as you have without being sacked, and that's happened to you a few times as well. You've always bounced back. How much pride, we will talk about Wednesday and United, your times there, and Barnsley as well, by the way, Barnsley fans, if you're watching. How satisfying, though, is it that you've never been out of work for long? You've had short spells, and then you've got another job. Is that a mark of quality? Is that really the yardstick that managers should be judged on in
or stupidity, whichever way you look at it? You know, I don't really know, Alan. I think that every club that I've been at, in the managerial sense, every club that I've been at, I've never really left on a bad note. The fans have always been terrific with us, so that suggests in most cases that we're producing decent teams and decent teams to watch. Entertainment is obviously what I was brought up with the managers I played under. You know, the people in this area will know very well, you know, and you know, Brian Clough and people like that, you know, and they were instrumental in entertainment more than anything. You know, they wanted to put a team out that they were proud of, and they would like to go and pay and watch. And it's no different from my point of view. You know, you sometimes have a problem in certain areas because you've got to use the players at the best of their ability for what you've got, and sometimes it's not really as easy as you want it to be. But that persistence is what's enjoyable when it comes together at the end. And I think that's been one of the the biggest areas where I've tried to manage from is the entertainment side of it, you know. And I remember, you know, a manager saying to me once that if he was in the stands, he wants to be at the end of the seat, you know, watching a game and not sat back bored and you know, reading his newspaper type of thing. And I've had some games when people have done that, by the way, I'm sure. But,
I've seen a few of them.
Yeah. But overall,
Not many.
No, but overall, I think it is a generalisation that we want to play attractive football, which will keep the fans coming in, and I think that's been one of the major things that's kept me going.
Where we came in, manager of both Sheffield clubs, that's something that may never happen again, that somebody may manage. Do you think it will ever happen again?
There's always a chance, isn't there? I don't think you can ever say no or say never, but it may be difficult because of the way that managers are going nowadays. You know, I think that anybody got a little bit of success, you know, there'll be one of the bigger clubs will come along in a bigger division, so you just have to appreciate that may happen in that respect.
Considering the tribalism, it's amazing it has happened.
Yeah. Well, if taking that into account and perhaps maybe the way that when I first went into the club that there was a little bit of a protest outside.
A little bit. Which
was ironic under Derek Dooley's statue. But
yes.
From that point of view, I think maybe not. Maybe not. No. You know, I think it was a brave decision in the first place, I have to say, from Sheffield United, from Kevin McCabe to appoint me, you know, and but I think he knew what I was like, and I think he knew I was brave enough to take the challenge. You know, I've never shirked at anything in anything that I've tried to do. I've tried to be big enough to face up to things, and when you come to the likes of Sheffield Wednesday, Sheffield United, they're massive clubs, you know, and who in the right mind would turn them down?
How proud are they that you've done both?
Immensely proud. I'm immensely proud. The people of Sheffield made me proud. You know, they were fantastic backing at Sheffield Wednesday. They were fantastic backing at Sheffield United. I think
they took to you at Sheffield United in the end.
Eventually, well, not everybody, but most people.
There was even a song about you. We can't say it on here but it was great, wasn't it?
Well, it was, yes, and it was a lot of hard work as well. You know, we didn't just sit on our hands and just expect it to happen and get a few results. We had to get out into the city, you know, and we had to talk to people that were fans, you know, and explain. Listen, you know, let's give us a chance, and it wasn't easy, you know, the early part of it.
You reached the playoffs, a playoff final first season, when you could easily have got promoted automatically, and there were other factors responsible for that, really, you know, towards the end of the season. Second season, you were on course for at least the playoffs, and then suddenly, I think it was 5 games from the end, you get sacked at the end of the season. You've had loads of ups and downs in football. How big a down was that?
That was the biggest one I had, because I had a great belief in the players that, you know, even if we weren't going to get to the top 2, you know, we'd still put a team together that was capable of getting to the playoffs, and we'd lost a lot of players in that period, by the way, before that. And we brought a lot of players in, not necessarily for a lot of money either. And I thought we as a group of staff and the team members, we'd galvanise the team very, very well. And I really felt that you know, going into the playoffs with that group of players, and knowing that, you know, we had the experience of it from the year before as well, that we could utilise that. But it wasn't to be. You know, it wasn't to be. The decision was made to change. I still to this day find it very, very difficult to understand why. You know, the scenario was they didn't get into the Wembley final anyway. Could we have done that? I believe we could have done, and I believe we could have won it. But that's by the by now. You know, we'll never know.
You'd lost a striker in Nick Blackman, who's been prolific since. You weren't able to replace him. I know that. It may not be a consolation to you, but I interviewed Kevin McCabe quite recently, and he admitted to me that he'd made some bad decisions over the years, and in particular, he regretted the decision over you and said that you were a good manager. I don't know whether that's news to you tonight or.
Well, it is news to me. Yeah, you know, I didn't know that, and it's not something I expected, quite honestly. But fair dues to him. You know, he's admitted that he got it wrong, and he did get it wrong, in my opinion. I thought it was. I didn't understand the decision at the time. I still to this day don't understand why. You know, I think the experience that we had going into that was paramount. In taking a group of young lads who's never been there before, in most cases, to hopefully was going to be a Wembley final again, you know. And but it wasn't to be. And as I said before, we talked about, you know, Sean O'Driscoll before, and at that stage of the season, it comes as a surprise. And I don't think it had the the desired effect on the players that they thought it would have, you know, and because obviously they went to, I think it was Yeovil,
Yes.
they went out to, you know, so there was a bit of a backfiring, but to say that he thinks he got it wrong, I think that's very big of him, because I think he did.
You were one of 8 managers that Sheffield United have had, I think it's 8, since they were in the Premier League briefly under Neil Warnock. How big that statistic alone, do you think, how far does that go to explaining where Sheffield United are now?
You know, it's funny. Yeah, well, you know, you have to be careful what you wish for. That's what the saying is, isn't it? You know, and will another manager make a difference? I don't know. Will you give him time to make a difference? Then there's a better chance. And I think you've got Nigel in situ at the moment. You know, there's a lot of pain at the moment in time because of the position in the league where they are, and the fans will feel it more than anybody. But again, you know, what's the next option? Do you start again and you get rid of another manager and you get rid, you know, bring in an influx of a band of new players again at a cost? You know, that's the predicament. You know, do you take the pain over a year or so or over a couple of years and give the manager a chance to build and develop?
Clearly, you think they should.
Well, I'm a manager, aren't I? So I'd always say that.
But you know Nigel Adkins.
But in principle, I think it is the correct way. I mean, you only have to look at history at clubs up and down the country that have swapped and swapped and swapped, and it's never brought much success. You know, and very, very scarcely brought success. But the ones that have been patient and stuck behind people, you know, and believed in what they were putting together, you know, the success has come.
Yeah. In part 2, we'll talk about your Sheffield Wednesday days as player and manager. You talked earlier about how important it was for you to entertain, and there can have been no more entertaining phase of your career as a player, or for those who watched, than that period at Hillsborough in the 90s. I mean, fantastic, yeah. Well,
it was. You know, they you know, we were playing to full houses, obviously, at Hillsborough at the time. We had some terrific players in there. You know, your David Hurst. Even to this day, David is still, in my opinion, one of the best strikers they've ever had. You know, due to injury and what have you, you know, I think he would have been certainly playing at the top level of the Premiership, and certainly for England, in my mind. Your Chrissy Waddles of this world, you know, your Viv Andersons, you know, fantastic.
You went into Barnsley with Viv, didn't you?
Yeah, he was a big friend of mine, Viv, and you know, it has been since my Forest days when I played at Forest, and a very close friend. Yeah, and you know, so but you know, they were a great team, some fantastic players. You know, people that maybe go under the radar a little bit. You know, the likes of Roland Nielsen's and people like that. You know, the King and Worthington on the left hand side there was as good as anything you'll see nowadays in the attacking sense. So overall, it was very, very good. You know, we had a good blend of players. We had a fantastic dressing room.
They were so talented that you, as an international player, described himself to me once as just a fetcher and a carrier.
Oh, I am, yeah. I mean, Shez, you know, John Sheridan, who's I've left, you know, out of that equation purposely, really, because he was arguably one of the best midfield players I've played alongside, and he used to just call me Chris Packett. Hey, Chris Packett, go and get that ball and give it to me. and I did, and I willingly did it, because he was such a great passer of the ball, you know, and I knew what my strengths in my game was. I could get the ball, and I could grab the odd goal now and again, but more importantly, I could feed Shez with the ball and whoever was he wanted to play with.
Danny, I remember a big League Cup semi-final goal, 91, that you scored. Semi-final, second leg, I think.
Chelsea.
Chelsea, yeah, leading on to Wembley and a victory over Manchester United. Yeah. In part 2 as well, perhaps we'll touch on Barnsley as well, because unusually you've had 2 spells at Barnsley.
Yeah, that's right.
The greatest achievement of your managerial career, probably, still. Yeah. Leading Barnsley to the Premier League.
Absolutely.
But you may top it yet. You never know.
Well, you never know. You never know. I'm hoping so.
Absolutely. Yeah. Loads to talk about then in part 2. James Gregg will join us to look right across the sporting scene, ice hockey, rugby league, rugby union, golf, you name it. And do you have any other sporting? You're a great cricket fan, aren't you?
I love cricket, yeah. I love my cricket, yeah. I love to watch, yeah. Couldn't play it, but I love to watch it. I love the golf. I suppose like most men, you know, they'll watch any sport if they're given the chance.
Near enough. But I know tonight you're going to be deprived of watching Man United Liverpool, because you've got Mrs Wilson to see. Take her out. Join us in part 2, about 5 minutes. See you then.